Fractures of the scapula are actually really uncommon in the shoulder, usually a result of like a high energy motor vehicle crash. Typically, when you get a fracture, I'm going to show you the shoulder blade. Here, the shoulder blade or scapula, most common you're fractured here in the body, but it can extend out here to the neck or even right here in the glenoid. Most of the time we can diagnose these on the x-ray, but sometimes they can be really subtle, so we might have to do a CAT scan to really look at those fractures well. Most of the time these fractures we can treat them just with a sling. They're treated conservatively, but some of these do need surgery, especially if there's a fracture that goes into the joint and there's a lot of gapping at that point. Anytime you see a fracture in the scapula, you have to think, wow, this is a high energy injury, and you have to look for other associated injuries like head injuries, neck injuries, or other torso injuries that might be associated with that. I want to tell you about a case I actually just saw. So just this week, I saw a gentleman referred to me for a scapula fracture. He was on the highway driving 75 miles an hour, saw an object in his lane. He quickly kind of swerved to avoid it and then overcorrected, and he rolled a few times. And believe it or not, his only injury was a scapular fracture, which is crazy. He was seen in an ER, and they did CTs of his head, CTs of his neck, CT of his chest, his shoulder, etc. And his only fracture was this. Now, actually, it was a pretty bad scapular fracture. Usually, I would recommend surgery because his fracture went all the way out here to his glenoid, but then there was a gap. There was a space of over a centimeter. So those are more likely to need some surgical fixation. This poor gentleman, unfortunately, he really wanted to try to treat this conservatively. So we're going to try putting him in a sling, cross our fingers, and hope he gets better.